Well, I'd say first of all, I miss you guys. Seeing everyone wanted to work from home today. Didn't want to come in and do it live and in person, but that's okay. I can see the faces with the guys with their cameras turned on. Some of you guys, I don't know where you're at, but that's okay. Anyhow, what a cool, exciting time. There's nothing like the start of a football season, and I'm sure there's hundreds of teams around the country, depending on the level that you're playing at, that are getting ready to kick off their season and are excited about their opportunity for their kids and for their staffs to go play. And we're no different. I'm no different. A lot of work goes into this. When you think back to, winter conditioning, when we're out running in January and we're lifting in January, and then it bleeds itself into spring practice, and you're trying to develop your players at that point. You're trying to figure out some of the new faces you have into summer. When you get another 21 guys show up in the summer, and you're trying to learn those guys, and you're doing skill development, and you're running in the heat, you're lifting, and then training camp rolls around. So a lot of hours, a lot of blood, sweat, tears go into this. And so whenever it's the first game, you're excited about it. And I think we've got an excited team. I think we've got an excited fan base. There's nothing like opening your season at home. And for us, a home night game at DKR, it's going to be a great environment, and just looking forward to trying to put our players in the best position to be successful, and watching them go do what they love to do, which is play football and play football as a team.
We'll go ahead to questions. Start off with Danny.
First, Steve, I'm not quite sure I believe that you miss us, but
I do. I miss you guys.
Do you have an injury report or updates going into the ULM game?
Yeah, we're really healthy. I credit our training staff. I credit the players that did get nicked up to work themselves back. The one guy that's probably out that outside of the two season ending injuries is Alfred Collins. But shoot, he practiced today. So we're excited about what it looks like for him coming out of this ball game, but we won't play him this week. But the rest of our guys are ready to go. And so it's like I said, it's a credit to the guys that did get nicked up of doing the rehab and the recovery, getting themselves healthy, and to our training staff of putting in the time and the hours and the effort to get them there as well.
Roger, go ahead.
Coach, when you don't have a game from this current ULM team to look at, what gets your attention, and do you talk to your guys about what they did against Liberty last year and the fact that, a lot of those guys will be here a little bit unfazed, I would think, even though that was a home game?
Well, I would say the Liberty game, and I'd say the LSU game late in the year as well. That game was probably a lot tighter than people thought. I think a couple things stand out to me with Monroe is, one, this is a veteran coaching staff. Coach Bowden, his staff, these guys have coached a lot of football and done it at a high level and done it well. So that's the first part. We got to respect the staff and the schemes and the preparation that these guys will do. Two, they're going to walk in here. They're excited for the season too. And they're going to walk in here kind of unfazed, and we're going to get their best shot, just like we do from every opponent. I say it all the time. We're the University of Texas. We get everybody's best pregame meal. We get everybody's best pregame warmups. We get everybody's best opening script. We get everybody's best blitzes, everybody's best coverages. And so it's not necessarily always about the opponent. It's about what we do in trusting our training, making sure that we're having really good communication on the headsets and on the sidelines to make the necessary adjustments, conveying that to the players so that they can go out and perform at a high level.
Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, I was going to ask you how you out pre-game meal them, if you have any information there. And also, just how do you deal with pressure? Do you feel much pressure because the first season didn't go how you wanted, and how you deal with it?
First of all, we have a heck of a pasta bar on Friday nights that I think Coach Brown started when he was here. That's been somewhat of a tradition here that I've kind of kept up. So I think the guys are excited about that. So we do pretty good at pregame meal night before the game. From a pressure standpoint, the thing with me is I've never shied away from a challenge. I've never shied away from an opportunity. And whether it's coaching in the NFL at 29 years old, the Oakland Raiders coaching Rich Gannon, who was 39 years old, to, being a young coordinator and calling plays in a national championship game, to being a young head coach and resurrecting the program at the University of Washington, to being a head coach at USC, to coordinating in the NFL and the playoffs, or going back to Alabama and trying to live up to those expectations as a coordinator, to taking this job. And so I think one of the keys is you have to acknowledge what you sign up for. There's a standard at the University of Texas. There's a standard of excellence. We're back-to-back Directors Cup champions as athletic department. We didn't contribute to that from a football program's perspective. But when you think about the national championships, you think about the teams that finished second in the country, you think about the teams that finished top 4 in the country, you think about all of the conference championships. So you know what you sign up for when you come here. And so I don't view it as, boy, oh man, this is overwhelming, this is a lot, or these expectations are too much. This is why I came here. I came here to be great. I came here to try to accomplish something special, in winning conference championships and competing for national championships and on a yearly basis. And so does it take work? Yes, it does. But you gotta love what you do, and then you gotta do what you love. And I love, driving into this stadium every day, walking into this facility, seeing our coaches, seeing our players, seeing our staff, knowing how hard they work. And so this is more about, man, we get to go do what we love to do. And that's kind of how I feel it. That does not mean I don't get the butterflies like everyone gets. Of course I do. That's the competitor in me. That's the excitement of getting to do this and coach college football and coach these players that work so hard. But in the end, this is what I signed up for. And I love it. I love every second of it. And even through the storms, even through the rough waters of last season, there was so much to be gained. There was so much information. And then there was so much that I felt like, man, I had to offer to these players, on a personal level and on a bigger stage, grander scheme, when you're talking to the team. So I love this opportunity. Looking forward to Saturday night. We're going to play as good as we can play. And that's our job, is to play as good as we can. And hopefully we can walk out of this game with a win, and then we get on to the next one, so that's why we do what we do.
Sam, go ahead.
Hey, Sark. Regarding Quinn, I know he's been in scrimmage environments, spring game environment. I think he even got a couple snaps last year at Ohio State. But it's been a long time since he's been the guy going into the game and throwing a pass and, been the starter going into a game. What kind of impact, if any, do you think that rust between live game action will have on him?
Yeah, I don't know. That's part of what we have to assess, right? Then the build up to the game, right? For the next 48 hours, as we start to get close to the game and walkthroughs and his temperament and meetings. I expect him to kind of be who Quinn is. And then when the game starts, hopefully we're putting him in position to do the things that he does well, and that he can find a rhythm and a comfort zone. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Things could happen. Adversity is going to strike, but that's important too, because how he overcomes that adversity is going to be critical for the longevity of this season and his career. But it's not uncommon for players to not play for a year. A lot of guys go to school in redshirt. A lot of guys have to wait maybe 2 or 3 years before they start. And so I'm not as concerned about the rust. We practice hard, we practice intense. We do a lot of scrimmage format. We do a lot of call-up periods. So we try to create that environment. I can't recreate 100,000 people. So that's going to be new. I think it's good that he got exposed to some of that at Ohio State a year ago, and playing at their home stadium, going on the road and playing at Michigan and being in that environment. So all those things I think he'll lean back on. But at the end, he's playing a game that he's been playing his whole life, and he's been really good at it. And I expect him to play really good in this environment as well.
Anwar, you're up.
Hey, Coach. Hey, last year, you kind of made it a goal that you wanted to play both quarterbacks in the season opener. Is that kind of a goal that you have this year? I know you have a young quarterback who probably needs as many reps as possible, but you also have some other guys on a roster with Hudson and Malik that probably can use some reps also. So kind of curious of what your mindset is there. And the last question is, are there any position battles that have been settled this week prior to the season opener?
Yeah, I'm not going into the game saying Hudson's going to go in, the first series of the second quarter, or I want to make sure Hudson gets in the first half. I would love for Hudson to play in this game. But I have to let the game unfold and play out the way it's going to play out. Quinn has earned the starting job. We're going to start Quinn. We're going to play Quinn. Hopefully we can get Hudson in there, but the plan isn't, there's nothing structured to get him in the game, but we'll see how it goes. From a position battle standpoint, I think we feel good about kind of what our two deep is going to look like. There was a couple things on special teams we wanted to kind of work through today to make sure we were all on the same page. But ultimately over the next 48 hours, we'll have a real set in stone plan as a staff of who's going to play when, who's going to back up who, and when we're planning on getting all these guys in the game. And we're going to need it. I'm gonna be remiss if I didn't say this, early in the season one, I think that, game conditioning is different. Obviously the heat here is different. And so our two deep has got to be more than capable enough to play at a variety of positions. So this isn't just play our starters and that's it. We've got to play a multitude of people in this game and probably the first few games to as we work ourselves into game-like conditioning.
Ryan, go ahead.
Steve, along the lines of young guys, how do you feel about Banks and DJ and Cole or any of these other young freshmen that are probably going to be out there?
Yeah. I think I'll start with Kelvin. He's got a great demeanor about him. I'll say that, I know you guys haven't had a lot of chances to get around him on this front, but he's a very even keeled guy. He's very serious about his approach to the game. I think that he doesn't get overly excited in a way that he, does uncharacteristic things. Like what was that? He's very kind of calm, even keeled. I think he's confident in his skill set and he plays that way. He plays very under control, and that's a positive thing as an offensive lineman. I think DJ, we definitely see the flashes of what he's capable of being. I think for him, the consistency is key. It's not for lack of effort. He wants to be really, really good. And I love that about him. He's an upbeat guy. He's energetic. I think he provides a lot of kind of personality to the offensive line. So that part is great. And for Cole, I think it was invaluable for Cole to be here in spring ball and to go through spring practice and to gain that confidence, and then to come back in fall camp and to continue to build off of that confidence. And, and that's the key for him. When he's really confident in doing what he does and knowing how to do it, he's a really good player. So those are the three kind of main guys that stand out. I love what Cam Williams has brought to the program. That guy is for as big as he is, he's got really nimble feet. He's an excellent pass protector. Like what he brings. Malik Ogbo, another really cool personality on the offensive line. And it's hard to get personality up front and to have a couple young guys that can do that. That's a real positive. So looking forward to watching all these guys get their opportunities.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Steve, this ties into Brian's question, but obviously y'all are very young up front with the first-time starters and the backups. So I'm curious, after losing Junior, how have you sort of seen Christian Jones maybe embrace the role of being that guy that they look to for answers, guidance, just tricks of the trade? I guess, how have you kind of seen him step into that role?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Christian this training camp. He came out of last year and we were playing him at left tackle, and I didn't think he played his best football. We really challenged him through spring ball and then in getting ready for training camp. And he's been a good player for us. He's been steady. I almost feel like there's been a step up in maturity of just kind of focus in what he needs to do. And I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him, because I think one thing that happens a lot of times is as guys get older, we assume they're finished products, and guys have room to grow. Guys have room to improve. And just because a guy's a senior doesn't mean that he can't work on his game and improve his game. And I think Christian's one of those guys. I think the composure that he's shown has been a huge step for him. In a way that he can kind of pass some of that down, of staying calm, being relaxed, but yet still playing a physical brand of football is one where I think guys can really lean into him on just kind of what it's like on game day. And I think he's a calming force for some of these younger guys when their opportunities come.
Joe Cook, go ahead.
Steve, I heard you mention him on your radio show last night, but I was just wondering what you see out of Boogie Night. Aside from the name, what does he bring when he's on the field?
Yeah, great name, by the way. Every time I read it, I think Booby Miles. For those football historians and great football movies out there, but really good player. You can tell he's a veteran football player. He's played a lot. He's a really good route runner. He's extremely competitive. Playmaking ability. Clearly they lean on him. He's a go-to feature guy for them and a guy that we're going to have to definitely be aware of.
Cedric, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, just a couple of questions. I know you're a West Coast guy. How do you describe to the great Bill Walsh used to script the first 15 plays of the game? Are you into that? And also, how well do you sleep the night before a game?
First of all, I am a big Bill Walsh fan. I got an opportunity to have breakfast with him, with Pete Carroll way back in the day. And I was just peppering him with questions. It was like, Coach Carroll told me, hey, get ready. We're going to meet with Bill Walsh, have your stuff ready. And I was like, man, I could ask questions all day long, but I do subscribe to the opening script. Said we're a 20 play operation. I know Coach Walsh was a 15 play guy, but we go 20 plays. We take a lot of pride in those 20 plays. There's a lot of variety to what we do in those 20 plays. Sometimes it's personnel grouping. Sometimes it's formations. Sometimes it's to ensure certain opportunities for certain players to get the ball in their hands, to get them involved. Sometimes it's finding a rhythm for the quarterback. And so every game's different. But I'd like to think when we go into a game, our players know those plays and feel very comfortable running those plays. Now, what throws that off a little bit, obviously you get into some third downs, you get into the red zone, you get into short yardage situations where you get off script and you call those things. But we pride ourselves on that. And then hopefully coming out of that, we've got a pretty good pulse of the opponent and what their plan is, and then, adjust accordingly to have the success needed for 4 quarters.
Last one, Ryan.
Hey, Coach, good to see you again. Just going off last season, is there a big key or thing that you learned from preparing for week 1 last season? Now in your second season, you can kind of use that to prepare for your first game going into Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, I thought last year's ball game, we played a very good opponent in Louisiana Lafayette, and who I think after our game didn't lose another game the rest of the year. So, I think one thing going into the first ball game is you have to trust your training because again, there's going to be unknowns. And so you've got to fall back on schematically and fundamentally position by position to, trust your training and do what you were trained to do. And because you're going to get some looks that you weren't prepared for. And then that's when your training kicks in and you adjust accordingly, sometimes prior to play or sometimes in play. I think too, the football is very important. Any football game, but especially in week 1, you'll watch a lot of games and turnovers seem to be, just such an impact on these games, especially early in the year. I think part of that is a byproduct of 2 things, because the third thing is tackling. It's hard to tackle every single day building up to a game. And so all of a sudden you get into a ball game, you're always looking at missed tackles. But on the flip side, the ball carriers aren't getting tackled as much either, and the quarterbacks aren't getting hit as much either. And so now you can create turnovers that way. So I think trusting your training, taking care of the football, or creating turnovers, and then ultimately tackling. Those are three big factors early in ball games, the early games in season that always seem to play a role.